Next on Currents News, unspeakable heartbreak as 3 members of a Catholic family are laid to rest this morning in Queens. A mother and her 2 children were killed in a raging house fire. Help for 9/11 heroes is finally the law of the land. President Trump making it official at the White House. The latest on a mass shooting at a California food festival. 3 people, including 2 children, are dead. Plus, a new development in the mystery of bones buried under a college owned by the Vatican. The news starts right now. A final farewell today to a mother and her 2 children, ages 7 and 19, who were killed in a fast-moving fire last week in Richmond Hill, Queens. Good evening, I'm Tamara Lane. The only survivor of that fire, Sylvia Umana's other son, 15-year-old Gabriel, today mourning an unthinkable loss. He watched 3 caskets at the base of Holy Child Jesus' altar, but shoulders to lean on were never far away. The parish community packing the church and vowing their solidarity. Currents News' Tim Harfman has the tragic story from Richmond Hill.
3 funeral hearses with 3 caskets. Family and friends carrying their loved ones into Holy Child Jesus Church. Sylvia Umana buried in a bronze casket, her son Gilbert buried in blue, and her daughter Guadalupe in white. Ivan Umana is Sylvia's brother.
We're struggling to get by, take it day by day, and hopefully God gives us the strength, to move on with our lives.
Sylvia and her 2 children, ages 19 and 7, died last week when a fire ripped through this Richmond Hill, Queens home. According to the FDNY, a damaged air conditioner cord caused the blaze, and there were no smoke detectors inside. Only Sylvia's 15-year-old son Gabriel survived. Bishop Octavio Cisneros, the pastor of Holy Child Jesus Church, presiding over the funeral in English and Spanish.
There is no way that we could say a word that would take away the pain and the sorrow and the suffering, especially of Gabriel, such a young boy.
He's distraught, but he also has the support of the whole family. We have a very strong family unit.
The teenager and members of his extended family bringing up the gifts, being consoled by Bishop Cisneros at the altar. Gabriel also helped carry his mother's casket. 51-year-old Sylvia was a single parent from El Salvador.
She was the first to graduate from college. She became a pharmacist. She was living the American dream.
Bishop Cisneros says the family has the support of the parish and Catholic Academy, where Guadalupe would have been a 2nd grade student next year.
The church has become closer today by being present to one another. The church has come for what it is, a community of believers.
We couldn't have done it without you guys. We're very grateful, the monetary support and the physical, the emotional, the spiritual support, given by the parish over here. We couldn't ask for anything better.
The principal of Holy Child Jesus Catholic Academy set up a donation page for people to help the family. Go online to GoFundMe.com and search Guadalupe Perez / Sylvia Umana Memorial Fund. In Richmond Hill, Queens, Tim Harfman, Currents News.
Stay tuned. In a special report later in this broadcast, I'll tell you about the safety measures you can take to escape a fire. Experts estimate 3 out of 5 home fire deaths are in properties that do not have functioning smoke detectors. It could be the difference between life and death. The report is still ahead in this newscast. A victory for New Yorkers today. Alongside hundreds of first responders and their family members, President Donald Trump finally signed the long-awaited 9/11 Victim Compensation Fund. The bill permanently bankrolls a federal fund meant to help ease the pain inflicted on the victims each and every day for the last 18 years. But as Currents News' Emily Drewby reports, for many, the pain will never really end. Emily?
Tamara, for months, activists have been fighting for this bill to pass. They say the fund gives first responders, victims, and their families some peace of mind. It pays mounting medical bills stemming from their time at the pile, and most importantly, it reminds America's heroes that their country is still there for them. By signing the Never Forget the Heroes Act into law, President Trump making good on America's promise.
Today, we come together as one nation to support our September 11th heroes, to care for their families, and to renew our eternal vow, never, ever forget.
The legislation authorizing money for the 9/11 Victim Compensation Fund, which pays out claims for both deaths and illnesses related to the attack and the recovery effort. This signing creating a long-awaited financial stability for the heroes of 9/11 and their families. Stability that for months first responder John Field has been fighting for.
These men and women, uniform and non-uniform, the children of Lower Manhattan, are sick and dying, and their families being left in financial ruins.
A fight he shared with fellow 9/11 first responder Luis Alvarez, whose testimony in support of the bill just weeks before his death was seen by millions.
You all said you would never forget. Well, I'm here to make sure that you don't.
Those powerful words inspiring both the House and the Senate to pass the legislation. But Alvarez never got to see that. He passed away last month from 9/11 related cancer. His son speaking out at a press conference in his absence.
When my father testified not too long ago, he said that he was coming down here to make sure that you never forget. And I want to thank you for not forgetting him, not forgetting all the other first responders who tirelessly worked to see this pass.
In the 18 years since 9/11, Alvarez's story has become too familiar. The dangerous dust and toxins that covered Lower Manhattan, causing all kinds of devastating diseases. 2,000 deaths have been attributed to 9/11 related illnesses, and 10,000 first responders and victims have been diagnosed with cancer. During the signing, President Trump commemorating Alvarez and all the other heroes.
You lift up our communities, and you remind us all what it means to stand united as one nation under God.
The 9/11 Fund was in big trouble until heroes like Luis Alvarez and comedian Jon Stewart put Congress on the hot seat. The compensation program was running out of money, with predictions that the number of victims would soar in the future. Now the fund is bankrolled until the year 2090. Tamara?
Emily, what is the outlook for first responders who are still suffering from their heroic work at Ground Zero?
Tamara, the outlook is not great at all. The estimates are that many will die from illnesses they contracted while breathing in the deadly air there. In fact, experts say the number of deaths from 9/11 related cancers and illnesses will outnumber the almost 3,000 people whose lives were lost on September 11th, 2001.
So a victory today, but still so much help needed. Thank you, Emily. President Trump is selecting a new boss for the nation's intelligence community. Texas Congressman John Ratcliffe is being nominated to take over as Director of National Intelligence. The Republican raised his profile at last week's congressional hearing with former special counsel Robert Mueller.
Trump is not above the law. He's not. But he damn sure shouldn't be below the law, which is where Volume 2 of this report puts him.
The outgoing director is Dan Coats. The former Republican senator from Indiana took the job in 2017. His last day will be August 15th. Tonight, police sources in California are identifying a suspected gunman who opened fire with a rifle at a family-friendly food festival. 3 people, including 2 children, were killed. The shooter, allegedly 19-year-old Santino Legan, was shot dead by cops. Stacey Cohan reports the very latest.
Gunshots ring out in the closing hours of the popular Gilroy Garlic Festival in Northern California. At least 3 people were killed, a man in his 20s, a 13-year-old girl, and 6-year-old Stephen Romero. The little boy's mother was also shot, but managed to call her husband.
She said that they shot my son and they took him from her. Couldn't believe what was happening, that what she was saying was a lie. Maybe I was dreaming.
Romero's wife is now in a medically induced coma, one of at least 12 injured. Gilroy police have identified the shooter as 19-year-old Santino William Legan. Police say he bought the assault rifle used in the shooting legally in Nevada just a few weeks ago. Police responded within 1 minute of the gunfire, shooting and killing the suspect.
I can't tell you how proud I am of the officers for being able to engage this guy as quickly as they did, because we had thousands of people there in a very small area, and it could have gone so much worse.
Police believe the shooter avoided on-site security at the festival by cutting a hole in the back fence. Still uncertain is whether or not the shooter acted alone. Police are investigating the possibility of a second suspect. Stacey Cohan, Currents News.
We are learning more about 6-year-old Stephen Romero, who was killed at the Gilroy Garlic Festival. His grandmother said he was a happy kid.
This is really hard. There's no words to describe, because he was such a happy kid. You know, I don't think that this is fair.
Young Stephen's mother is expected to survive wounds to her stomach and hand. His other grandmother was also shot. Baltimore Archbishop William Lori is defending his city after a tweet from President Trump claimed it was a place where no one would want to live. The Archbishop's diocese was the first in the United States and has played a pivotal role in the country's Catholic culture. In the tweet, Trump said Baltimore was a disgusting rat and rodent-infested mess. Archbishop Lori is punching back. It saddens me to see Baltimore severely denigrated by President Trump. Baltimore is near and dear to my heart. It is the hometown to more than 500,000 people. Puerto Rico's governor-in-waiting is saying tonight that she doesn't want the job. The current Justice Secretary Wanda Vasquez says she has no interest in being governor and wants Ricardo Rossello to submit a candidate before he leaves the office on August 2nd. The official next in succession is the Treasury Secretary, who, at 31, is not old enough to be governor. The beloved former head of Havana's Archdiocese, Cardinal Jaime Ortega, passed away last Friday, and this weekend, top Cuban officials and Catholic leaders from around the world gathered to bid him farewell. The late Cardinal died after a long battle with cancer. He's best known for his role in helping reestablish relations between the U.S. and the Cuban government. Pope Francis sent along his condolences, promising prayers for the eternal rest of his soul. There's a lot more news headed your way. One of the Vatican's biggest mysteries remains unsolved tonight. Hundreds of bones, but no one is sure who they belong to. My special report on the important steps you can take right now to protect your families from fire, the one single thing that could make a life-saving difference. And how a priest from West Africa became one of the amazing Mets' biggest fans. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. One of the Vatican's biggest mysteries remains unsolved tonight. The hundreds of bones discovered by researchers do not belong to a young woman who disappeared in the 1980s. The Holy See's press office announcing that the investigation into the bones and bone fragments found at the Vatican cemetery is closed, and none of them belonged to Emanuela Orlandi. The daughter of a Vatican employee has been missing for more than 30 years. The Orlandi family is requesting about 70 bone remains still be tested in a laboratory. A Catholic Italian police officer was laid to rest this morning while 2 American teenagers are in custody, accused of his murder. The funeral cortege for Officer Mario Rega was applauded as his casket arrived at church. The service was held in the same church where Raga was married less than 2 months ago. He had just returned to work following his honeymoon. Authorities say the 35-year-old cop was stabbed to death by one of the Americans after a botched drug deal. Rega was a volunteer for the Knights of Malta and would distribute food to the homeless as well as accompany the sick and disabled on pilgrimages to Assisi, Loreto, and Lourdes. The suspects are being held in a Rome jail on charges of murder and extortion. David Daniel has the latest on that part of the story.
Police have arrested 2 Americans from the Bay Area over the killing of an officer in Italy Friday. 19-year-old Finnegan Elder and 18-year-old Gabriel Natale Horth are being held in a Rome jail, accused of aggravated murder and attempted extortion. A prominent Italian newspaper obtained a photo of one of the suspects sitting blindfolded in a police station after being taken into custody. Police confirm the authenticity of the photo and say investigations have been launched into both why the suspect was blindfolded and who leaked the photo. Italy's interior minister also commented, saying, "To those complaining about the blindfolding of the arrested, remember that the only victim to cry for is the man, a servant of the homeland who died in service." He called for life sentences for both teens. The murder is apparently the result of a drug deal gone wrong. Elder and Natale Horth are accused of stealing a backpack after they were sold crushed aspirin instead of cocaine. Police met with the pair to retrieve the backpack and were assaulted after they identified themselves. Investigators say that Elder stabbed Officer Mario Cerchiello Rega 8 times and confessed during his interrogation. But Elder's attorney says he remained silent in front of a judge.
He exercised his right not to answer questions, obviously.
Despite the accusations, neither of the Americans has been charged, and according to Italian law, police can hold suspects for up to a year without charges. I'm David Daniel reporting.
The fire that led to today's funeral for Sylvia Umana and her children Guadalupe and Gilbert ripped through their home where there were no working smoke detectors. Having a functioning alarm tops the list of simple steps you can take to escape a fire. 2 minutes. That's the estimated time experts say you have to escape a home fire once it starts to spread. And the limited time means simple safety measures can make the difference between life and death. New York City recently experiencing the deadliest year for fire fatalities in a decade. The FDNY reporting that in 2018, fires killed 88 people. That's up from 48 people in 2016.
A residential 1 or 2 family home and an apartment house, basically the only fire protection that you have is a smoke detector.
James Bullock, a 30-year veteran of the FDNY who now runs his own consulting firm, says the most important thing, working smoke detectors.
And every house or apartment is required. You should have them sometimes more than one. If you have 2 different sleeping areas in the house, one is to the one side of the house, another sleeping area to the other side, you should have 2 sets of smoke detectors, one for each sleeping area, and they need to be tested.
Experts estimate 3 out of 5 home fire deaths are in properties that do not have functioning smoke detectors. And landlords also have a responsibility to tenants who rent.
When you have a fire escape and you're worried about security, you can put bars on the window on the inside, and they're special bars that are made especially for escape from fire.
But whether you rent or own, thorough fire safety measures need to be more robust.
You must have a plan, and you should meet outside the building, make sure everybody is here, and then stop to call the fire department.
Bullock also highlights specific issues residents should be aware of in the summer.
If you're going to use the air conditioner, make sure that it's connected to a proper outlet, that it's not going to overheat on you. The hotter it gets, you keep on pumping up the air, but it only goes so far. You don't want to overheat your wiring. You don't want to run extension cords underneath the rug. They wear out, and the extension cord would fray, and then that could be a cause of a fire there.
While these sometimes preventable tragedies devastate families and communities, the people on the front lines fighting these fires are also impacted.
I love it and I hate it,
Monsignor John Delendick, pastor at the Shrine Church of St. Jude in Canarsie, has been an FDNY chaplain for over 20 years. He has seen first responders die on the job and is now seeing them succumb years later to 9/11 related illnesses.
It's the greatest job in the city of New York. It's simply, I have to be the person, that makes the presence of Jesus known throughout the department, And there's only one way to do that, is you have to go and be yourself, not be afraid to talk to them about faith, and to be there for them.
So take time today. Check your smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. Check your home for fire hazards and practice an emergency plan with those you love. It will save lives. The experts I talked with say it's very important to know about your building's construction. If it's combustible and a fire starts, it's probably best to get out right away. In a non-combustible building, it might be a good idea to shelter in place. You can get the information from your landlord or on the back of the front door. Still to come on Currents News, a priest from far away is saying you gotta believe in the New York Mets. We'll have the story on how he became a big fan. And the tablet has a brand new page called Our Diocesan Family, where you can share your pictures of recent baptisms, Holy Communions, confirmations, marriage, all the joyous sacraments. For more details and to submit your photos, go to thetablet.org/ourdiocesanfamily. Your picture may be published in an upcoming issue of the newspaper. We'll be right back. The Diocese of Immigrants welcomes dozens of priests from around the world each summer. Some are new to the U.S., others have visited before. One priest says he came back for two reasons, because he loves Brooklyn and America's national pastime, baseball. Currents News' Tim Harfman reports from Flushing.
A couple of priests enjoying a baseball game on a Sunday afternoon, watching the New York Mets in action.
If they lose, we pray for them. If they win, we celebrate with them.
That's Father Martin Aji. He's from Ghana and is helping out in the Brooklyn Diocese for the summer. He got hooked on baseball through Father Ed Kachurka. He's the pastor of Mary's Nativity St. Anne Parish in Flushing, where Father Martin is assigned. Father Martin is among the 80 clergy from all over the world who are pitching in this summer, giving the priests of Brooklyn and Queens time to go on vacation or go on retreat. He made his first visit to the U.S. last summer, and that's when Father Ed had an idea.
I said, would you like to go to a ball game and experience baseball here in America?
The first reaction was, what is it about?
Father Martin became a fan of the game and quickly set out to learn the rules of baseball.
There are pitchers, there are catchers, there's a lot of running, and there are a lot of rules, and we have 9 innings in a game, and at the end, there is a loser, there is a winner.
When Father Martin returned to Ghana last fall, the priest stayed connected on social media. Their favorite topics, baseball and the Mets.
I take back to Ghana to show them.
And guess what?
Can you sign for me?
Father Martin is also on top of what's happening in the Brooklyn Diocese year-round, thanks to the daily newsletters from the tablet and Currents News.
This has become my second home. I don't want to be out of date. Let me know what goes on, what Bishop DiMaggio says, what is going on in the diocese, so that when I come, I'll be well integrated in the diocese.
He's a big part of the parish now, and there was actually a countdown by parishioners counting the days that he was going to be coming back. That's how much he's been loved.
The church is one. Whether in Ghana, in my diocese, Goso, or in the Brooklyn Diocese of New York, the church is one.
One church and one team. For when it comes to this visiting priest, you gotta believe. In Flushing, Queens, Tim Harfman, Currents News.
Just like Father Martin, you too can subscribe to our daily newsletter and begin receiving the top news from the Catholic world delivered each day right to your inbox. Just go to netny.tv/email sign up and you're all set. That is Currents News. I'm Tamara Lane. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.